I know you want to say something. I want to ask you a question, then you can add it to what you want to say. You
Okay.
know, naturally, when a child is born, the primary parent of that child is the mother.
Exactly.
So, in terms of surrogacy, right? At what point does that child belong to a different parent? Maybe the people that contracted or went into agreement for that process to happen.
Good. I wanted to draw on what you said earlier about adoption and the thin line that you, what you called thin line. I think in adoption, you wouldn't legally. It's not actually a thin line. There's a clear difference.
Okay.
You can adopt someone that you have no relationship at all with, and the effect of adoption is almost the same as the effect of a parental order when the child in a surrogacy is handed over to the intended parents.
I think you need
Now,
to explain this area more.
okay,
Yeah.
when the process of surrogacy begins, that means the surrogate has agreed to get pregnant and carry the baby for people who obviously are not able to have children, to have babies. When the child is born, the law, the UK law, I'm talking about UK law, I
UK.
know other
Okay.
jurisdictions might differ. UK law requires that the surrogate mother must register the birth of the child. So if you go to the birth certificate, you will see the surrogate mother as
The mother
the
of the
mother
child.
of that child. If the intended parents, those who entered into the agreement for the surrogate to have the child for them, if they intend the child to be handed over to them, they must make what we call a parental order, and they must make it within a given set of time, so that the effect of the parental order will then be, but with the consent of the surrogate parent. The effect of the parental order will be to transfer the parental rights from the mother, natural mother, the birth mother, to the intended parents. That's the effect. And at that point, it has the effect of giving them parental rights, which in the case of adoption also gives parental right to the adopted parents. So that's the where you can say they are similar, because the two parents are not the biological, as in the birth mother, but the effect of the orders in the case of adoption order, in the case of surrogacy, parental order when it's handed over. So the effect is to extinguish parental rights from the natural parents of the baby and transfers it to the people who are now in charge of the baby, the intended parents and the adopted parents. So that is the effect that it has. Where I'm a little bit concerned is when UK parents go abroad.
I was coming to that
You
because
can go ahead.
most UK parents
Yes.
go abroad to get this process done. I could remember during the time of COVID and there was lockdown
Yeah.
and countries like Ukraine,
Yeah.
it became an issue because a lot of babies, their parents could not come to
Exactly.
take them. So
Exactly.
I was coming to that. But if you want to throw more light on maybe having that child outside the UK jurisdiction, do they
Yeah.
have like maybe international laws that connect countries for this procedure to happen?
There are international laws that controls generally the movement of babies, and the principal purpose is to avoid child trafficking, so that they will make sure that children are not being trafficked under the guise of surrogacy or adoption. the concern that personally I have is that even though commercial surrogacy is not allowed in the UK, the UK law does not look deep into the activities of those parents that, or those individuals that go outside the UK for the purpose of making surrogates. Because they can go, just as I said earlier, and meet a woman who has had 10 other children for other surrogates, for other intended parents rather, and meet the person and pay the person to still be a surrogate for them. And I understand some of these people, like in India, the conditions that they are given are so draconian.
Okay.
To the extent that some of them might even be told not to have any conjugal relationship with their husband, for those that have. Because whether you are a married person or you're a single person, you can be a surrogate in those distant countries. So I am personally not comfortable with it. My position is that the UK should legalize it, because once it's just like some things like abortion. When it is not legal, it resorts to underground activities.
Yeah, it puts people's health at
Exactly.
risk. Yeah.
So if you legalize it, it will enable you to look into the activities of those intended parents, so that you will be able to see a way to make sure that it doesn't result to slave labor. It doesn't result to child.
I would disagree with you on that.
Okay.
Because, for example, you made mention of abortion. Legalizing it doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't even solve the issue of somebody having a kind of backyard, as we used to say when we were growing up, backyard abortion. The thing is that these are processes. If I want to make something illegal, which means I must have another way of solving the problem. So if I want to keep abortion as an illegal act in the UK, I have to work within the circle of the teenagers. So I have to teach
I
them
mean, like to educate them.
sexual education,
Oh, okay.
give them what they need to actually prevent such from happening to them. So, but when you don't legalize, you make something illegal in a country and you're not doing anything at the other point, that is when the youth keeps on doing the same thing.
So, sister, do you think that the issue is lack of?
I am pro-life.
Yes,
so I
of
am
course.
against abortion. I'm against anything that destroys human life.
There is.
I understand.
There is. I know there are some positions you took that maybe sister may not agree. But you remember a few weeks ago we were talking about paternity fraud.
Yes.
And when sister was talking about different types of surrogacy, apart from the gestational surrogacy, there was the one sister mentioned a bit
biological.
earlier. Biological.
That's the traditional one where the mother is the surrogate is actually the mother of the child.
Okay.
And she can also she gets a donor who might be a partner or husband but there's something about that I wanted to clarify. Many a time singles want to have babies, so they go to the bank, the cement banks, to choose. So like an African woman, you just go and choose, you want a baby with a blue eye, with a blonde hair, mixed with your African genetics, and you have an idea of that. That's pure exploitation. You are not respecting the dignity of the child. Okay. You see where the church is coming from. In as much as it might seem reasonably right, but morally it is not. Because it compromises the dignity of the child, of the human person, and it is pure exploitation.
So, what in a case where, in the Western world, I know people are open about a lot of things, but in some developing countries, I'll use Nigeria like for example, the issue of baby factory have become so popular that when people look at it from the negative side of it. And if you are talking about the biological surrogacy, where maybe the mother is okay, but maybe the father is not able to, produce the things that could help make a baby, and they get another man to, donate to the mother, and they have
How
a
does
baby.
that sound? How does what you're saying
Yeah,
now
because
sound to you as an African
yeah,
man?
because we're talking about issue of paternity fraud that we discussed the other time. It's still the mother, but another man maybe donated because of these biological problems.
That's what I'm
My
saying, an African man. As an African man, how does that sound to you? You married a woman and now you have issues. You now have to invite another
But
man.
as an African man, you are the one that have issues, and they are
you
Yes.
trying
see
to
the
help you
church.
out.
You see the church takes positions that, for me, are sometimes unrealistic.
Okay,
The reason I'm saying
I
this,
want to hear more.
yes, I was listening to one bishop who was discussing about the church's relationship with AI, relationship with technology, and all those stuff. This bishop had to draw an example with relationship the church had and mentioned Galileo.
Okay,
I couldn't believe it. How can the church use Galileo to give an example of their good relationship with technology? All of us know that Galileo, his main discovery was that the earth was not the center of the universe, for which the church dealt with him. In fact, Galileo died because of the punishment given to him by the church.
Because the church is always progressive.
Yeah,
So-
but to the church, it killed Galileo, even though they didn't, end his life practically. But
they
the
frustrated him.
conditions that they gave him, including imprisonment, led to his death. I'm trying to draw a connection
okay.
with this
The
surrogacy.
church is wise.
The position of the church is untenable. I don't believe that anybody who wants a child should have one so that he doesn't get abused. But I believe there are people who are genuinely unable to
Sure.
give birth.
exactly.
Those people should have the option of having children through surrogacy, whether it's gestational or partial surrogacy, just as sister said, is not in line with reality for the church to refuse those people. They are good parents, or they are a good couple. They can take care of children. And remember that we Africans, when you think of the fact that the child you are raising has some genetics with you, it brings bonding. But the position of the church is that, okay, there are many people to adopt, therefore you should abandon surrogacy and go and adopt them. What they don't want you to do is for you to have any relationship in terms of genetics with that child that you are adopted. Whereas I want that surrogacy
Absolutely.
because I want my child to be the biological, or the have genetics with my wife if the problem is from me, or from me if the genetics with me if the problem is from my wife.
Can I come in here, guys? I want us, if you are watching this program, you can see that this discussion is getting really interesting, and we wouldn't conclude it with the views we have in house. We want you also to give us your thoughts. Go to the comment section. Tell us what you think about this topic, because it's very, very interesting. Now, if I want to come to what sister said, what the position here is, you shouldn't be picking babies like you are going to Primark or M&S to pick
Right.
clothes. So that is, it's not morally okay. And to an extent, I think a lot of people will agree to
But
that.
let me ask Mazikenna. I'm not trying to be so extremistic. What I'm trying to say, must everybody have a child?
No, everybody must have a child, and that is my position. You don't have a right to a child.
So, if by chance a woman can have a child, can she adopt a child and give that child hope?
She can, but remember, it's a choice.
It's a choice. The church is not forcing anyone. The church is just suggesting, making you aware of the moral consequences of such actions. The church is not trying to relegate barren women to a life of depression. No, the church understands their position. But what maybe is kind of triggering us much is our cultural background, where women without children are being stereotyped, they are being marginalized. That is the main problem. So instead of me being marginalized or stereotyped that I am a barren woman, people laugh at me, people treat me anyhow, then I have to go and get a child.
Sister,
of my own.
does your own church, the Catholic Church, recognize and accept a woman who is barren? For just they are barren, it's okay to be barren, it's not a problem. Because I know, in some churches, in the Pentecostal churches, in the miracle churches, they will tell you there shouldn't be any barren in the house of God. So that barrenness must be delivered.
So the church promotes nature.
Okay.
Nature is a gift. Either way it comes. So if a woman can have a child, you're welcome. Nobody is being chased out of the church. The church welcomes you. The church supports you. The church can as well encourage you to go for adoption. Yes. Okay. There is a place for everyone in the church.
Remember that the church doesn't see anything in somebody being poor. In fact, the church will tell you that blessed are the poor. I don't know whether they put for, is it this shall see God or theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So the church is not realistic. That's why our African indigenous, as far as I'm concerned, our African indigenous system is the best, because it makes provisions for some of these things through years of experiences, practice, thousands of years.
You mean issues like surrogacy?
Yes. In our societies, you see people who are married and who are not able to give birth. And the Igbo society allows a woman who has not given birth to go and bring somebody from outside to give birth, and that child will become the biological child of the husband. Mm-hmm. It's allowed in our society. Mm-hmm. What I don't want is the practice of surrogacy that results in people, in the real sense, this thing that Tesco does, that they call bug off, buy one, get one free, is in surrogacy. That's the kind of practice that I want to be.
That is when it's commercialized.
Yes, when it's commercialized to the extent that they abuse it. In fact, surrogacy even results in people doing sex selection. You understand? They want a male child. So if the embryo does not result in a male child, it's removed, and until a male child arises.
So if we are to go by blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God, right? Why are we stressing ourselves so much in acquiring, sorry I might use this word because it's kind of exploitation, I'm buying a child? Because whether I like it or not, indirectly or directly, I'm paying for it. So if it's the kingdom of God that is the last end, what I desire, why am I going extra miles to buy a baby? Can't I give life to an already existent one? Like through adoption.
Well, I don't know. I'm not arguing your position, but I'm just thinking, because if you go by the position of the church, and this is interesting because we also need people that are not from Christian background, maybe other religious background, to also give us their views on this subject. Because if you look at the idea of God's creation in the Christian domain, is all about procreation. So if a child is born, and that child is already born, so the essence of getting another child born through surrogacy is to continue that process of procreation, to add to the child that is already born. So if people are no longer giving birth and they are adopting, the ones that are already born. Do you think it's encouraging that process of procreation?
So, adopting a child means a child that has no chances of survival, no family connection, an abandoned child. Giving the child life, giving the child hope is something worthy of a Christian. So, as a Catholic, you can find satisfaction, you can find that joy of motherhood in an adopted child.
Sister, I think you when you are saying it this way, I think it's more of contextually based, because any child that is born in the Western country, in the UK, that child must be looked after. Is the primary position of the law. But I think we have to take it down a little bit to a context like Nigeria, where maybe an abandoned child is left to suffer, no food, no shelter, no clothing and all that. But when I was looking at this issue, you discovered that there is just a handful of countries that actually have laws or legalized processes for surrogacy. And if you go to Nigeria today, every day on the mainstream media, on the social media, you see the police parading maybe 2 or 3 women saying, "Oh, this person sold a child, this person paid." Why is it that case in Nigeria? Is it that Nigeria doesn't have a legal framework to support it, since it is already happening? Like you said, traditionally, and people that, are in this age are now using it as a transactional process. What could be done
So,
differently?
in my years in Italy, I worked as an educator in the children residential home. And I will tell you this, in as much as the government takes care of the children, there is something lacking in their life. There's nothing like a child growing up in a family. Even if they are not your biological parents, there's freedom in growing up in a family, knowing there are 2 adults taking care of you, caring for you. Somebody you can call mama. That is it. The fact that they don't have a mother or somebody worthy to be called such becomes a problem. It creates a lot of psychological trauma in their lives.
So what in the case of Nigeria? Let's look at it.
Let me come in here. Okay. If you look back on our earlier podcasts, we've discussed the issue about Nigeria. Mm-hmm. And my position, somebody might call it extremist, but I don't believe that the structure that Nigeria has is working. It needs to collapse so that people can go their separate ways.
How does it relate to
how it relates to this born? Is I will draw the connection perfectly clear.
Okay.
In Nigeria today, parents in the north give birth and send their children as amajiris to go and beg. Today, as we are talking.
But that is more cultural.
It's Nigeria, and you see them walking about this. The point I'm trying to make is that people who are biological parents of children are not able to take care of them. And you're talking of people going to adopt children in Nigeria. When those who are biologically the fathers and the mothers are not able to take care of them, they are walking along the street. So children as young as 7 years are hawking on the street. Some of them, due to the insecurity, economic factor causing them to be hawking in the night, causes them to be kidnapped, causes them to have their organs taken, and the mother might not even know where the child is as at 8 p.m. So why would the issue of going to adopt those children be an issue? I don't think, if I want to have a child, I don't think I'll be satisfied for my loving wife to go and adopt if I know there is an alternative for me to have a child that is biologically related to my wife. Adoption cannot solve that problem. It's just like when you are thirsty, you can't drink Coke.
Like
you need to drink water.
Another man. You mean like bringing another man or getting or doing insemination?
Exactly. If I'm not able to, and I know that there is a sperm bank, just as sister said, that I can, go and seek a sperm, and my wife's egg is viable to fertilize that sperm, and there is a surrogate that can get pregnant and give us that baby that we long for, the baby who is biologically related by genetics to my wife, and you tell me to abandon that process because of the church, because of God, and go and adopt. I will not do that, because when I'm sleeping, my people will say that Amagi Hechi, because you don't have a child. Even if I want, let me name that child. Okay, what if the father comes, the real father of that adopted person comes tomorrow through genetics that we are talking, the person will check DNA and find out, oh, this is my child, though. And then what will happen when I'm 70 years, when I'm 80 years, and I don't have any biological child? As at that time, it is late. Sister, am I going to adopt again?
Mazi, is all biological children useful? I mean, you are talking about the patriarchal ideology of the Igbo man, where an Igbo man needs a male child to Onochiobi. Yeah. Now, is all Onochiobi useful?
Sister, some of these things, our tradition, some of them are even engineered by women. Remember?
I understand, but the way you're talking about it, I've seen families where the firstborn is not actually coordinating the way he should. So we cannot generalize. Like,
no, I'm not
who
generalizing.
tells you that child is gonna take care of that Obi you're talking about?
You mean the
At
child,
your old age.
the adopted child?
I'm not referring to
To
you.
me, yes. I mean, you mean the adopted child?
No. I'm telling you. You say that if I know there's another way I can go for it, why can't I go?
Rhetorical question.
Yeah. So and I was asking, okay, the one you are getting through insemination that might not be yours, but through the bank or whatever, who tells you that is the right choice for you at your old age? That he will actually be that Onochiobi that will keep the lineage going.
You know, this